The most bulletproof car in the world that most of us can't even afford anymore. The W123. What's wrong with this one? Let's get started. This is a 1981 Mercedes-Benz 300 TD Transporter. It's kind of basically a station wagon. These things used to be everywhere. I remember when I met Tyler Hoover from Hoovy's Garage. It's one of these W123 chassis is the reason why we even met in the first place. We both were really into them. We were tracking them down, and you could pick them up all day long for $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. They were plentiful. Not anymore. The parts for these are also drying up. It was probably about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, Hoovy from Hoovy's Garage came up to me and said, "Wizard, I really love these cars, but I'm going to have to stop because the parts are drying up. And when you can find them, they're not $100 anymore. They're $800 or $1,000. The parts are just double, triple, like exponentially higher." So owning one of these will definitely be a labor of love. They are bulletproof. I think there's one in Europe, a taxi that went, I'm not sure if it was 1 or 4 million miles. You guys can let me know what that number was, but it was million or more miles. They are what I believe to be the most bulletproof car ever made in existence. Let's take a look around this really nice 300 TD. Here we can see the front. It does have the 5-mile-per-hour American bumper, but it has been switched out to some Euro headlamps. Those are not the headlamps these came with in the American market, and it does look very nice the way it is. As we go around to the side, you can see, what color is it, Mrs. Wizard?
That's cream.
It definitely is a cream color. It's kind of very light tan. It has what's called the bunt cake wheels, or cake, I should say. Looks like a bunt cake pan, and those are getting hard to find as well, very expensive. Not any serious rust on it. Being the wagon, there's a much more storage room. Here we see 300 TD turbo diesel. Equally as nice on the other side. Let's go ahead and look under the hood. Stick your tongue out for me. There we go. Thank you. Here we have a 3-liter inline 5-cylinder turbo diesel. They put up about 120, 140 horsepower. You can play with the ALDA and get a little bit more power out of them. We do have some things apart on this one. There was a 616 and a 617, 616 being a 4-cylinder. This is the 617 turbo with 5 cylinders. Now many of you say, "Wizard, what about the Buick 3800? I thought it was the most bulletproof." Engine, it's about the same as this one. They're equally bulletproof. But this entire car is the most bulletproof car in the world. The Buick LeSabre, the car itself is not as bulletproof as this entire car is. Let me show you a few leaks we found under the hood. Where the turbo output meets the intake manifold, there's a seal inside of there that it's kind of blown, and under load it's spraying a little bit of PCV oily substance out. You can see that these are torn. It's very common. This is where the air cleaner mounts. It sits right here, a circular shape. These things are always torn up, so we'll be replacing those. Next to that white fuel filter, you'll see a plunger. Those are a common leak point, but luckily this one isn't leaking, but the lift pump itself, where it mounts to the side of that casing, is leaking with the gasket, so we're going to have to get a gasket and replace that. I talked about ALDA adjustments. Under this cap right here, there's a little plastic cap. You can get in there and make adjustments to the fueling and everything. You can get a little bit more power out of these. It's a very common mod that people do. But these guys are known to leak. These are the return lines. There's a kind of a braided hose. And valve cover gaskets are also known to leak. Every engine on earth has a few little things, just like the Buick 3800 has the coolant elbows, it has the EGR pipe and a few other things, issues. But the core of the engine is what I'm talking about, is bulletproof. You can drive one of these that's been well maintained, and you really don't have to worry about a rod throwing itself through the block or crazy oil pump issues or design flaws. It really just doesn't have any of that. The customer brought it here primarily for leaks and nothing else. So before we get it on a lift and dive into what we found underneath the car, show everyone, Mrs. Wizard, the interior of this beautiful 300 TD.
ladies and gents, this baby's almost halfway to 500,000 miles. So it's at 250,000 miles right now, 220,879 miles. And yeah, that's a very classic Mercedes gauge cluster. But looking good, nothing's broken, nothing's cracked, no dust in there. Looking great. The dash, this is where we could typically see some problems. This era of Mercedes is known to have cracks, either from the foam spilling out when the brake's up here, or even the wood peeling. And we have a little bit of that wood trim missing right there below the round vents. But as we move down, you'll see that we have our controls for, windshield wipers, our antenna, HVAC controls, and this right there. Look at that beauty. That is the original Becker Grand Prix electronic radio in this car. Isn't that just beautiful? We also have a nice little spot back here for our ashtray. There it goes, and it does actually come out and go back in. One of the other amazing things is well, there's no lock stop on here, so I'm going to put that back up there and park so you could see the radio. But this flat piece of wood is known to break and crack and curl, and does have a few minor spots that could be corrected, but this is still amazing condition. As we get back, you'll see we have a nice tray right here. There is no center console. It is just this big tray that has this little carpet inside. So you can take this out, vacuum it, put it back in. So move to our seats. Yes, they are classic, just ivory leather Mercedes. Perforated in the center with the standard, what we're so used to seeing in Mercedes of this era headrests that do go up and down. We do have our armrest in the center, and if I push the release on the side, it will go down. So we don't actually have a console, but we do get an armrest. That, again, locks in place. Door card is more camel. It's a little bit darker color than the seat is, but looking really nice. Very common for those handles to break as well. We have custom floor mats in here. We have two. There's in the back, you'll see there's some plastic ones with kind of a honeycomb design. And we have kind of an Asian designed rug underneath. Obviously not standard, but it goes with the motif of this car quite well. And the back seat is in cargo mode, and I'm not so sure why we have a big sheepskin back here or a rug and a walking stick, and why the pieces are missing on the back. Not so sure what's going on back there, but that's not the customer's concern. Leaks are. So there's no leaks happening back there, so they must be doing something themselves. But the headliner, look at the headliner. Isn't that beautiful? Everything is looking fabulous. And here we are at that steering wheel. It is a very large steering wheel. We have the Mercedes symbol in the center, and one thing you can notice back there, as you can see, it says accelerate and decelerate. This guy had cruise control, which not all cars came with at that time, because my parents bought a few and they always hated it. But this one, it has no controls other than just the horn in the center. So I love this flashback wizard. My grandpa had one of these, and I took many trips in the car with him. So thanks for the flashback. But let's go see what's going on underneath this car. Let's get this thing on a lift.
What makes these so bulletproof is serviceability, and also they're not overly complex. Take a look at this front suspension setup. It doesn't have 14 different arms and 12 ball joints. It's just, there's a rod, a control arm, a ball joint, and there's some upper control arm, and that's about it. Here's your brakes, your steering, old school steering. The brakes have probably 60 to 70% remaining. It does have some good shocks on it. They're not blown out. The upper control arm, everything looks good. Same story on the brakes here. Everything looks good in the upper control arm and the sway bar. Bushings are looking okay. Nothing loose. We see our radiator and the core support area. There's an oil cooler here. Again, nothing is leaking here, which we're very happy to see. But we do see the lower oil pan, and luckily it's not the upper one. It's just, that would be very expensive, but just the lower one, you can see it's leaking all around the edges, and it's blowing on the bell housing, on the transmission pan. This is all blowing from the lower oil pan. So we did show that to the customer, and they approved that repair. So far it has the lift pump gasket. It has some small leaks at the turbo. They're very, very small. This is the biggest one here. As we move back, Again, this is all wet from the lower oil pan. The transmission itself is not leaking. Our exhaust is all intact. As we move to the middle of the car, there's two things to check here. Our flex disc, which is not cracked, is in good shape. And our transmission mount, I can put my finger underneath. That's good. That means it's been replaced not too long ago, so it's in good shape as well. Here's our drive shaft. I don't sense or feel anything loose there. The carrier bearing, which is a common failure point on these, is also in good condition. Another really great thing is that even without the oil blowing, rust protection, we all joke about that, but the floor pans are rust free, and they have a coating on them as well, like something that was put on many years ago, and it's doing its job. There is no rust on the body of this car. Very, very good. Very happy to see that. I'm starting to see this customer does take good care of this. You can see that this flex disc has been replaced. It has brand new shiny yellowish gold bolts and a brand new flex disc there. But we do see at the differential, the input shaft seal is leaking. There's a little bit coming from the output seals on either side. It's also leaking from this rear cover right here. Someone has put in a new mount, which is good. Unlike that Mercedes back there, you see the GLK, the suspension, even in the back, is a little bit more complex. It's still not as complex as one of those. We have a big, beefy lower control arm and a spring and a shock. That's pretty much it. I can tell that this axle has been replaced, but this has not been crimped or something is starting to leak there. That needs to be removed and gone through. And it's a little bit loose in there. We need to remove this shaft. Maybe the nut is loose or something. We'll see if the customer lets us do that. But this shaft is needing replaced. It is not good. It's got a lot of play in it. The brakes in the back, about 40 to 50% remaining. I don't see anything leaking there. Our accumulator seems to be in good shape. We can see it's slinging grease. This needs to be replaced, this shaft, for sure. The brakes are the same here. These hoses look like they've been in place recently. And the accumulator is not leaking there either for the rear suspension. So I don't see any damage or anything really broken other than that CV shaft, and it has some leaks we'll let the customer know about, but I don't see anything serious under here.
But it does come with balls.
Balls?
Yeah, look up, Wizard.
Oh, it looks like an egg carton. Yeah, that's a vacuum reservoir, Mrs. Wizard.
Oh, well, you know, it looks like it can store a whole lot of balls up there for you if you
It definitely could, I guess. But otherwise, let's get this thing on the ground and talk about where we go from here. I really love the W123. Even today, it's got beautiful lines. They're easy to work on. They're amazing in reliability. Unfortunately, unlike 15 years ago when I met Tyler Hoover from Hoovy's Garage, you could basically buy every piece and part and bolt for this car, and it was $5, $10, $20. You could buy everything for this car. But as of 5 years ago, parts are drying up fast on these. Companies are just not making them anymore. Companies that did have parts have run out of their stock and they're not being resupplied because they're not being made anymore. When you do find the parts, you finally find that one part you're looking for. It's no longer 40 bucks, it's 190 bucks. It's just, things have really gone out of hand as far as availability and parts prices. Tyler even mentioned that 5 years ago that he does have one of these right now because he just had to have one, but for the most part he said he's done with the W123 based on those facts. Just for giggles, I did go to 3 or 4 of my favorite suppliers that I always used to use for these cars, and just some of the common parts and things that would fail on these. I started looking them up and see, and I kept seeing discontinued, out of stock, no resupply. Out of stock, out of stock. I just kept seeing that. I was like, man, that is so sad. These are such awesome cars all over the world. These cars have been all over the world. And again, it is the most bulletproof car on earth, in my opinion. Now, what is all this going to cost? You guys know that anything 1990 or older in this shop is at our collector car rate of $250 an hour. Once you start finding this and this and that, 4 hours of labor adds up to $1,000 really fast. We got a list of all the leaks and everything that needs to be done to this car. The customer picked a few items and said, I'll bring it back for the rest. He said, I just don't trust anyone else to really work on this car right now. You guys are the shop that I want to work on this. I just can't afford the entire bill all at once. So we're going to do 2 or 3 items now. It'll come back later and we'll get some of the rest. When I rang up the total bill, even I was shocked. The parts cost more than they used to. The $250 an hour labor rate, you start adding it all that up, we were in the $5,000 to $6,000 range. It added up fast. 2 hours here, 4 hours there, 3 hours there. Like in the rear end and the rear axle area, a lot of that can be 5, 6, 7 hour job. Pulling the differential, pulling the axles all apart. Guys, it adds up fast. So, like I said, we'll do a few things and it'll come back. Now, were these used to be worth $4,000 or $5,000? I met Tyler Hoover on a 1983 Mercedes 240D. I went to Kansas City to buy it. He was wanting to buy the same vehicle, and we met on Peach Parts, which is what it's called. It's a Mercedes-Benz forum. And he found out that I bought the car that he had wanted. He was going to buy it. And I think, what did we pay? Was it $2,000 or $1,800?
Oh yeah, not a whole lot.
It was cheap.
Not back in those days.
It needed some work, and I went through and fixed everything till it was cherry. It was perfect, guys. And I documented through Peach Parts, and Hoovy was watching. He was saying, oh man, that's good work. That car's perfect now. He's like, I want this guy working on my cars. And that's how we met. But back then, parts were cheap and plentiful. And I got it for like $1,800. What is this car worth right now? Here's a picture of one that sold on Bring a Trailer, an immaculate one. Almost 30 grand. These cars are not $2,000 cars anymore. If you find one for $2,000, it's because it's completely clapped out. If you find one for $2,000, it's going to be a completely clapped out basket case, and it'll probably take you $20,000 to get it right again. These things are all over the internet anymore, immaculate, going for $20, $30, $40. I've seen some for $50,000 that are nuts and bolts, perfect, everything perfect. They have become a full-blown collector's car. So based on that fact, if you're budget-minded and you're like, I'd like to restore an old car, although I would have always recommended these 15 years ago, if budget is a concern, probably not one of these anymore. It's amazing how fast things change in the world, guys. Where me and Tyler met on a car like this for so cheap, if I was making the money that I was making back then, I wouldn't be able to afford this. There's no way. So it changes really fast, guys. So if you're curious what kind of tools we're going to use to work on this really nice 300 TD or any other car in the shop, a lot of the tools we use in the shop are listed for sale on our Amazon affiliates link in the description below. You can click on that link and it shows a lot of the tools we use. We really do use them here in the shop. They're tried and true, and they're very, very useful. If you purchase any of them, we get a small cut, and we really, really do appreciate it. Make sure to hit the subscribe button because we have so many different cars coming in every week. More videos for you guys. Thanks for watching.